All right. Welcome to Rich Conversations. I'm so excited for this conversation because we have Manuel Novillo joining us from Argentina. I there's so much I'm excited for in this episode, including we have someone here, Manuel, who's lived in Antarctica, and I'm so curious, especially about this experience. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Rich. Thank you very much for your invitation. I'm glad and I appreciate your interest in my life, and I'm happy to share it with all your audience. So let's get into it.
Let's do it. Why don't you briefly introduce yourself?
Well, as you said, my name is Manuel Novillo. I am from Argentina. I was born in Córdoba. It's a city. It's the second biggest city in Argentina. Um, well, I'm an only child. I have a stepbrother, but he lives in Buenos Aires. Well, as part of my life, I studied biology, and I applied for a PhD during my scientific career that made me move to Buenos Aires, where I lived like 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
And that's like a short briefing of my life,
Yeah,
but it helps.
yeah. You've done some interesting things, and I'm excited. So you've lived in Cordoba your whole life, right?
Yeah, I was born here. I lived Cordoba when I started my PhD. So it was like when I was 25 years old.
Okay, very cool. So what's the general vibe of the area? Like, what are people like?
Yeah, well, Cordoba, it's like, I mean, there might be something of Mediterranean cities, you know. Cordoba is like it's in the middle of hills and rivers.
Okay.
I mean, the big city is, of course, a crowded place. There's 1 million dwellers here, so it's a big city for us in Argentina. And the vibe is, as I told you, when rivers and nature is too close to a place. I mean, it's like there are some shared features in people living
Yeah,
there. I've always been keen on going to the hills, hiking, swimming in the rivers. We are a bit aware of nature, of the species we have here in the hills. And well, of course, I'm a biologist, and also I'm looking for this type
you,
of.
you find what you're looking for.
Yeah, I was born where I wanted, but that's quite a bit tricky in my life. No, I was born in a Mediterranean city, but my deepest interest is focused in the oceans. So I had
Yeah,
no access to the ocean when I was a
yeah.
child, but I make my way to them.
You sure did. You sure did.
Yeah.
So that what's Buenos Aires like? You've lived there for a little bit.
Yeah, Buenos Aires, it's an amazing city. Uh, in terms of, I know there's a wide variety of cultural, yeah, I mean, you know, it's like all capital, it's a
Yeah,
cosmopolitan city. There's people from all over the world. It's a really big city. And you have, I mean, you can get to eat whatever type of food you can imagine there.
mhm.
There's lots of history inside the city as well. You have to imagine that it was like the beginning of our country, associated to the we call it Rio de la Plata. It's the La Plata River, where the biggest port of the biggest harbors of Argentina are located. It was where all the trading started. It was the last one of the last routes from the ancient uh, from Peru when colonizations came, and so there's a mixture of history with nowadays and contemporary life, and of course there's a lot of offers of nightclubs as part of the city life. It's a city that lives a lot during the night and a lot during the day. Imagine that there are like almost 13 million people living and working inside Buenos Aires.
Wow.
From all around. And also these kind of cities have these I mean, the bad side of living so crowded, which is long distances, traffic jams, people traveling like 3 hours to their work.
Whoa.
Yes, and there's where I think that's why I may kind of try to live from Buenos Aires to a smaller city where I have nature closest.
Yeah. What was your experience like living in Buenos Aires? Like, what did you do? What did you like doing there?
Well, given the fact that there are lots of traffic jams and all these kind of complications and movings when you want to move inside the city, I moved to an apartment that was really nearby my place of work, which was the Argentinian National Nature Museum. Which is,
you worked at the Nature Museum?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is that like the Natural History Museum there?
Yeah, it's something like that. That's
Nice.
that's.
I'm wearing the American Museum of Natural History right now.
Oh, I have it on my checklist. I want to visit that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, great spot.
I've never been there, but so I live really close. And this museum, at this museum, there was it is the ichthyology laboratory. Ichthyology is like the study of fishes. So the ichthyology laboratory of the Argentinian Antarctic Institute was there.
Okay.
So during my days, I went there. I was there studying, performing my experiments, and working and researching on my topics.
Yeah.
I mean, I had something with Buenos Aires that was like, as part of my PhD, I had to travel to Antarctica, Mm-hmm. So during these 5 years, I was like 3-4 months abroad in Antarctica. So in a way, it was like a big different situation coming from there to a big city and getting into it again. And but in order to answer your question, what I did, I played sports. I did a lot of courses because, I mean, as part of the PhD, you need to get postdoctorate courses. It was like a big, too much time studying and working on that. But also I had my free time, my day off. I tried a lot of music because when a city is big, there are lots of bands go to play there. International bands mainly. So that was an interesting aspect of living in Buenos Aires. Besides, I couldn't reach any river close. We have the Atlantic Ocean, which is there are some spots and cities where to go to surf or during summer, but they are like far away. They're like 5 hours a ride.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are there beaches in Buenos Aires? Like, if you're like visiting the city, could you like, as a tourist, like go to a beach nearby, or?
As I told you, they're not nearby. There's some places, like one is called Mar del Plata. Mar del Plata is like, it's like 3-4 hours, a 3-4 hours ride from Buenos Aires.
Okay.
It's also it's a city, and there are lots of beaches where to to go and practice some sports like surf or like kite surf and all that type of water sports.
Yeah.
I don't know if you say like that. But inside Buenos Aires, if you go there for a while, I would recommend people to get into the city center, where there are lots of historic buildings. And I mean, I don't know if you have been into South America, where there are lots. Our central squares are usually similar all around the cities in South America, because we were colonized by. So you have the central square, the cathedral, all these buildings.
Yeah, the
like,
parks and the trees and the fountains
it's like it's very similar all around South America and in the Spanish colonization processes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm.
What are the people like in Buenos Aires? Are they similar to Córdoba and Argentina as a whole?
Well, that's, yeah. I mean, every province here. So we are divided in provinces, which are more or less states, but we share all the laws in each province has some different laws, but the national law is the one that rules everywhere. I mean, well, yeah, people in Buenos Aires, they are called, we call them like porteños. Porteño is the translation from people from the harbor, from the ports, you know. And they are, I mean, they have different accents in how we speak. And also the people from Córdoba have a very special one, which is like everyone notice when you are around Argentina that you are from Córdoba. It's really different way how we speak Spanish between provinces. That's kind of interesting here in Argentina. And also every province has its special meals, for example. Of course, every place in Argentina share this good meat on the barbecue, which is really famous all around the world. The barbecue, Argentinian meat and Argentinian cows. So, but besides that, every province has a special meal, or of course special types of music, of Argentinian folklore, and which makes it a really interesting country to visit. You have diversity of people around. Our country is really big in terms of the latitude it crosses. So you have hot weathers, really cold weathers in the south, in the Patagonia. You have the Andes hills. You have also our coast, which are really cold. Of course, they're not the Caribbean coast, but it's nice to visit them.
Huh. Very cool. What are the people like?
Well, people
what characteristics?
Here, when I thought about that, I believe we're a mixture of different cultures. We have Italians, maybe descendants from Italy. We have descendants from Eastern Europe. We have Portuguese descendants. We have a lot of Jewish traditions. It's like Argentina received a lot of immigrants time ago, and now it's like an interesting mixture of these different cultures. And in a way, I believe that our history, I mean, you may know, we suffer lots of economical issues. We are always struggling, and there's lots of poverty. But one thing I believe we share is that we are like kind of ready for chaos, you know. We
Ready
are
for
ready.
chaos.
Yeah, we are ready. We are resilient. We know how to act in bad situations. We are used to them. We are used to all these changing every time and trying to dress of other thing to go on and to
Yeah.
change our works or our ideas. Or I mean, I believe that that's what at least in terms of scientific developments and or what people from abroad tell us is that
Mm.
we are used to do things, to create things with with a really low budget. So that's kind of sometimes an advantage when you want to go on with projects or to create ideas. So I mean, creativity is one of our best assets, I believe.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And
We'll
of
shift.
course, as one last thing, as all
Yeah.
South Americans, we are warm people. We
Yeah.
hug each other. We have parties. Uh, um, we like of if you come here once. I am inviting you to to Argentina in this moment. You will be
Yes.
welcome in my house. At least if we have met only 5 minutes. You know, I
Yeah.
can get you in my house and have a meal and start talking. So we don't need too much time to get in touch so
Yeah.
close. You know, I think it's that's our way of living here in all South America and
Yeah.
particularly in Argentina.
It's awesome. I
So you're
appreciate the
welcome.
invite.
Yeah,
I'm getting the wheels turning in my head how I can get this going.
yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, what initially sparked your interest in biology and science in general?
Well, that's an interesting question because I believe I always have it inside me. So in a way, it was not something that sparked me, but something that got me zooming into my own desires, you know.
Yeah.
So in a way, I believe I was always keen on going into the nature or being adventurous or being curious of our world around. And once just I believe, well, maybe it's like a tipping point in my life. Once I was there, my mother always tells me that when I was a child, I I mean, I received presents for my birthday. You know, these huge cars or all these type uh, of of presents or toys that everyone receives. And my best entertainment was she put me in front of a tree we had in an apartment.
Okay.
And when the wind blew all the leaves, it was like I was there like just watching that. And it was,
Wow.
and I left behind all the toys I received. So in a way, I think it was always inside me. um, Fortunately, here in Córdoba, we have a really important and in a university, a national university, which is public and free for everyone who wants to reach it. And as I said, fortunately, well, we have biology.
Mhm.
I could study biology in my city, which is really important for us.
Yeah.
And well, getting into biology is getting into life science, so it's kind
Yeah.
of everything. um, in particular, my scientific desire, it's I don't know, it's like I had always been trying to understand things, or being curious of how things work, or
Yeah.
how, yeah, I mean, understanding things is like the motor of humanity, where we have
Yeah.
reached everywhere trying to understand which were or trying to find answers to our questions. And what's interesting is that we find one answer that leads to
another
to another one. So we start with two answers. We perform our research and we can answer one of them, but it leads to four of them. So it's a never ending trial. It's like, and that's how we live. I mean, scientists, and I think everyone's, but well, scientists focus their energy in some type of understandings.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so you're interested in biology. What in particular led you to like studying the reproductive patterns of fish in Antarctica? Like, that's very specific. How did you get into that?
Yeah, that's true. Well, the story of my life was always close to reproduction. My uncle owns an institute where they perform IVF, in vitro fertilization techniques to help people who have problems in procreating. And I worked there while I was in college. So it was like amazing. It was an amazing technique. Well, being there and helping people with to have their babies, it was like very emotional. But once I realized I needed much more field work, I started looking for scholarships. And within my college, I received one class of a teacher who had reached Antarctica. And when I saw that, and he showed some pictures of the scientific stations, I was like, what? Really, we can reach there? Argentina has stations there. It was like, I have never heard of it. So I said, I want to go there. No matter what I have to do, I want to go to get to reach Antarctica. So I started searching for projects all around to get there, and I came up with one that they were looking for a student, a PhD student, for this to study the reproductive patterns in a specific group called Notothenioids, that we usually call them Notothenioids. So at first I didn't know that these fishes existed. So I started looking and say, what? And for that I needed to move myself to Buenos Aires. So wow, I want to tell you exactly what happened. The scholarship was closing, for instance, tomorrow. No, at that time it was closing tomorrow, let's say, and I had my interview through Skype, and they started telling me what I had to do and where I'm traveling Antarctica and all what I had to do, and I said, come on, yes. I started filling all the application,
all the fields,
quickly, and I send it, and that's how I reach. Nowadays, I'm really into understanding reproductive patterns, but to be honest, at first, my spot was reaching Antarctica, whatever the cost was. So, and now I'm working on this, and as I can see the similarity of always reproduction inside of between my life, and well, so that's how I get there. Then I started like investigating, performing research that and talking to people. When I talk them what I do, it's like, as I saw your face, it's like, what? It's too specific. I mean, and they're really strange species there. We can only found them there. They're endemic in the Antarctic waters. So, and they have really interesting adaptations to living in cold waters. I mean, cold waters can reach -2 degrees Celsius. which everyone will freeze. Imagine that. But these fishes have like tiny glycoproteins. They're like proteins that prevent them from freezing. Anti-freeze proteins are called. So briefly, they like they cover these ice particles and prevent them from growing, which is amazing. And one of these fishes are like called ice fishes. Maybe you have heard of them. Recently, some researchers found a really big spawning ground of ice fishes down 500 meter depth. So these ice fishes are like the only vertebrates which do not have a hemoglobin in their blood. So blood is pretty transparent.
Really?
So have you ever seen a fish, or have you ever seen a transparent blood?
Never. I've been trying to find photos we can show guests. These are the Antarctica fish, right? The ice fish.
The ice fishes. Yeah. I work with them. I study their reproductive patterns. Yeah, they are translucent. You can see beneath their skin. You can get to see their internal organs. So it's quite an amazing species.
So they're translucent.
Yeah, there are. And I mean, juvenile stages and larvae stages as well is much more transparent. And yes, it's a quite interesting and full of researchers are trying to understand how do they live and how do they, if you know, hemoglobin is the molecule that transport the oxygen through our body. So how they could get rid of it and how they could live without this. And the most accepted theory is that nowadays they breathe throughout the skin. Oxygen that actually passes through the skin to the organs. And well, that's quite strange and interesting to study, no?
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's also, it makes you think too, like thinking about evolution, like how did these fish evolve to survive in these waters in particular? They had to change their bodies where they're so unique now.
True. Yes, one of my most important insights I received living in Antarctica was this that you have recently said, like working and being in contact with species that have evolved for so much years and who have understand in a way how to live in harmony with nature, like living together with nature and understanding their flows and not trying to break these cycles as we humans do. And yes, well, they're fascinating for me. These fishes, and particularly these ice fishes. Well, as you were speaking about evolution, the most accepted theory of why they have get rid of hemoglobin is that when cold water has a higher concentration of oxygen. So apparently living in those environments for so long, you have to imagine that more or less between 25 to 35 million years ago, Antarctica started being where it is now, and all these cold currents that surround Antarctica started framing these nowadays scenarios, nowadays environments. So in a way, they started living in harmony with nature and understanding how they needed to survive. And well, that's the most accepted theory to date.
Isn't it interesting how much imagination is required for like science and thinking about, okay, based on these patterns and objectively what we see in these rock formations and stuff, 25 to 30 million years ago, it might have looked like this, and this is possibly potentially why this is this way. You gotta really be creative.
Yeah, of course. One of humanity's biggest advantages is the level of abstraction you can reach. You know, I mean, we are speaking, Rich. You are understanding that I'm a human living in Argentina, where you have never been. You know, there's a map. There's people living there, and you are based in Boston. I've never been to the
Chicago.
States, but I'm sorry.
Boston's a little snooty, and they're on the East Coast.
My mistake. Sorry for that. You are in Chicago, and I've never been there, but I understand there's people living. So we, humanity, have a great sense of abstraction, and that makes us live in society as well. But coming back to your comment, I think yes, we scientists need to create these theories, and maybe as we speak, there are hypotheses. We are always trying to prove them and creating new hypotheses. But yes, I mean, that's fascinating. I mean, that's a big. We have we can change our minds. We have the reason to change our minds, and that's kind of. I mean, speaking of what you first said of creating like a big network of how we will live our future, we need to have a great level of abstraction and to share things and to connect each other in a way that we both understand in this case.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Are you a curious person? I'm sorry.
I'm the most curious person I know.
Okay. and what is curiosity for you?
To me, it's like I would say the word openness, it goes along very much with curiosity. It's like openness and like humility. So I guess those three words together, it's like seeing something, and as a human being, understanding too, like I learn a lot about human history, and it's like I exist now in this time, and there's so many things that's happened before this. And for me to right now, if I'm just looking at this, I have a microphone, I'm talking to you through a computer, through a webcam, I have a light thing over here, I have a bed made of materials that I bought at a store, and there's a lamp here, and then there's all these books of ideas.
Yeah, and a pretty dinosaur.
Thought, and like I am living in the product of everything that's come before me, and all these things that exist, humans were curious about, so they developed them further, and they continued on this path to where now it's like everything around me is a result of curiosity. So it's like understanding that the future will be different than right now. And it's like this curiosity of just this innate thing within us as human beings, that we're curious, and to learn or to fulfill that curiosity. There's like I'm going in a roundabout way of saying this, but like there's this like thirst to quench this desire to learn more about this thing that is like on my mind. And the only way to do it is to understand, have the humility that I don't know it now.
Yeah.
But if I'm open to learning and doing, I can potentially find out. And that's exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree with your definition of curiosity, and your wording to put that in words is kind of amazing. And of course, I believe that being accepting ignorance is our first step to trying to understand things.
Yeah.
So I mean, we are always fighting with our personal egos, others one's egos, trying to know who is the most valuable researcher in my case, and
Yeah.
what's the problem there. Let's
Yeah.
accept we don't know everything. That's where we going. We're
Yeah.
going into the unknown to reach answers and to
Yeah.
continue this cycle you were speaking about.
Yeah. And yeah, the way I see it especially is like the 21st century presents this opportunity that, you know, I talk about all the human history that's come before us, but never has there been a time where we can collaborate on the level that we can now. I mean, we're talking, you know,
Yeah.
in 2 different time zones. You know, you're in the southern hemisphere, I'm in the northern hemisphere right now, and it's like there's so much opportunity to learn and grow and communicate and share ideas to create something that doesn't exist right now, but we can create it, you know. It's exciting.
Of course. Yeah, we and what's interesting of these times that we are like being aware constantly of changes. We do not know where they're heading to, but we are aware that things are changing, and that's the possibility that social networks and internet has provided us to feel like we are global. And one of the most important, I believe, effects that the pandemic situation of COVID had was this globality. I don't know if it used that word, of human beings. You know, you were inside down when the lockdown started here. You were in the internet and you could see a Chinese guy also lockdown, and one from France or from the States. You know, it was like everyone was crossed through this moment in the history. Well, let's hope we go through to a better future, or a more just and fair future.
Yeah. And the only way we can do that, though, is if we individually empower ourselves to take action and create that world. From my perspective. And it's interesting too. You mentioned the lockdown, especially in cities. There were lockdowns, and it almost like we knew that we all had this capability of communicating through video and everything, but it almost required everyone to figure out how to do it, because that's how during this time we're gonna participate in society and communicate. So now it's almost like coming out of the pandemic, whenever it may be, or like we're in like still in it, I suppose, and so much, I don't know. But now coming out of it, the pandemic, everybody will know how to do this. And it's almost like a total game changer.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's like a new way of sharing thoughts, maybe, which existed previously, but now, well, during the pandemic, we felt it more closer.
I think this is what it was. The capability was there, but not the motivation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's why maybe we need to be open-minded to realize that the capability is there and create motivations to use them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I'm sure listeners and viewers have been waiting for this whole time. But describe your experience living in Antarctica.
Let's go there. Okay, well, as I told you, I've been there 4 times. Each time I was spent like 3 months, more or less, like 3-4 months every time. Well, I reached there by plane and also in big ships and one Argentinian icebreakers. There's some big icebergs there where you are sailing. From Argentina, you can reach by plane. We have a stop we get from Buenos Aires. We use the Argentina Antarctic program. The logistics are provided by the forces, national forces. So I flew in these planes, the Hercules. I don't know if have you heard of them.
Well, it looks like because I watched some of your video that you made, and it's like you're in these like military looking planes.
That's true.
The things you see in like movies where they like jump out of the back of a plane.
Those
like,
ones.
Yeah.
Those ones. And we are like sitting there as those militaries. And there's a lot of military crew that helps us there, which goes and provide logistics for the science. And I flew by plane. There's one stop in Rio Gallegos that is in southern Argentina. And from there, we fly to Antarctica. I've been 3 times in the Argentinian station, which is called Carlini. It's at the South Shetland Islands, on a special island, which is called King George Island, and we call it Isla 25 de Mayo. Particularly at that island, there are several stations. There are a Chilean station, a Russian station. There's a Chinese station.
There.
Precisely there.
Yeah.
That's the South Shetland Islands. And well, as part of living there, well, my first time I sailed there. I was 10 days in a boat, in a Russian boat that helped us and gave us a lift in a way. And we reached there, of course, we crossed the Drake Passage. The Drake Passage is one of the most dangerous ways, or one of the most dangerous seas in the world, because it's a circumpolar. There's a circumpolar currents where there's no land that can stop it, and well, several ships cross them, and well, it moves a lot.
Yeah,
I felt dizzy some days, but well, I reached Antarctica, and that was the only thing I wanted in my mind. And when I reached there, our experience was awesome. I mean, doing one day in my life there, it's like we get up really early. I mean, we get up, and if the weather is good, I mean, there's a lot of wind. You can imagine. If there's no wind, we go out fishing. I fish. I'm a fisherman in Antarctica, so we went out fishing. We go out fishing. For more or less 3, 4, 5 hours. We get dressed in some special suits, that are,
these suits are always orange, it seems like. Are these
Yes,
the ones
yes,
you're talking about?
those ones, those ones. I mean,
Is that so you
orange
don't
is
get lost? Everybody can see you?
true, true. Yes, it's a good color for when you went out missing.
Yeah.
Yes, these special suits were designed for polar environments, and so we go out fishing. We deploy trammel nets. Trammel nets are fishing. Our fishing gear, especially trammel nets that go.
So is this
Yeah,
fishing to eat or is it like research?
no, no, no. Especially is every fishing we perform there, particularly, is for research.
Okay.
The area where the station is, so the South Shetland Islands, commercial fisheries have been banned in the 1991
Okay.
because with data our group provided. There, Antarctica is interesting in terms of if political or geopolitical issues, because the only things that rules Antarctica is the Antarctic Treaty. The Antarctic Treaty was formulated in 1959 and started working on in 1960. And the most important aspect of this treaty, it was created when you can imagine Cold War in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Past this, when Second World War finished, all countries wanted to prevent the Southern Hemisphere from wars and this type of movements. And well, this Antarctic Treaty says that Antarctica is a continent of peace and research, where no war is allowed. And in a way, it's an international treaty that promotes peace and performing research. So there are some countries that have claimed rights from some territories. Argentina is one of those. Chile, Great Britain, and well, there are several others. But you're mandatory have to perform research. You have to research, and in a way, there are some resources. There are, of course, fish, the commercial resources that are allowed to explode are fish and krill. The krill, I know if you heard about it, is a small invertebrate, which
That's
is
what whales eat.
Yeah, whales eat and fishes as well. And but in Antarctica, it's really important because it's like the base of the food web. It's a key species in the Antarctic trophic web. So what's interesting also is that all these regulations of where to fish and where not to fish are regulated by a commission that is the Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, where I personally and all my group provide data to allow a correct management of the resources. And currently we are proposing, along with Chile, Argentina is proposing along with Chile, a big marine protected area on the West Antarctic Peninsula. There has been one Antarctic marine protected area which was accepted some years ago in the Ross Sea, but nowadays we are working to protect this. So coming back to your first observations is that we are fishing in areas where fishing is not allowed, but as we are fishing for a scientific purpose, we receive a special permit to do so.
Okay.
So yeah, in a way, we live there. We go out fishing during mornings. We came back at midday to our lab. There's stations are arranged with buildings, like the containers, the ones that ship to travel, that ship uses to transport goods. Containers that are arranged inside for different facilities. You have kitchens, you have living rooms, you have rooms to sleep, you have laboratories, you also have like a hospital, and well, there are cookers. So we do not cook. We came back from work and we have a delicious meal there waiting for us. And then we go back to our laboratory. So I mean, we work really a lot. We are like all the day trying to work. It's really expensive for Argentina to take us there, so we need to take proof of it, take advantage of it, and we work. And I personally, I have through all my PhD discovered that inshore areas, areas that are down to 100, 120 meter depth, are serving as spawning grounds for Antarctic fishes. And this is really important when we study fish biology, because one of the most effective management and conservation ways, I mean, one of the most effective ways to preserve a fish population is to protect the spawning grounds where they are reproducing, you know, because if you fish actually where they are reproducing, the impact you have on fish population is greater. So I'm really anxious, I'm really excited on our project, on trying to create marine protected areas to preserve the resources. There were over exploitation in the 70s. So that's why some fin fishings are prohibited. And yeah, well, that's why I love what I am doing, and also the experience of going into Antarctica. And I know sometimes we are fishing there, and you are like, well, your mind is in your work, and which fish is going to come out, and you turn around and you have a humpback whale showing his tail or its tail, and you're like, what? Come on, that's my work, you know. It's like living every day in a continuous changing environment, so pristine in a way, and being open to surprises like that. And when you realize that some people pay to reach there, well, tourists pay, and well, that's my work, and I'm all the day there. It's like, come on. That's right. I'm on the right, and I'm on the right direction.
Wow. So you're there. You're researching most of the day, weather permitting.
Yes.
So what do you do? What does like the rest of your day look like, and living life there?
Well, of course, sometimes weather turns really bad, so we have like 3-4 days in a row with bad weather. We cannot go outside. We of course we still have work in our lab, but there are also other activities. I mean, you would be a great guy to reach Antarctica, because as you're curious, there are lots of people working there. I've been people that study marine mammals, so I help them go into these elephant seals colonies, or also going to the penguin colonies. Or I mean, there's sometimes we perform some exchanges between stations. So I will tell you this. So we were there once. It was the Korean anniversary of the creation of the station, so they invited people from all these stations around, and I was there, and I had, like, you know, these moments, you have these kind of insights in your life that you're, wow, I'm really here. I was in the shore, there were some barbecues, I was speaking with Russians, Koreans, Chinese people. We were all drinking some we had some beers, or I can't remember which drink were having, but we were like, they have this kimchi, they call this a spicy sausage,
Okay,
and
yeah.
we were like there in the shore, an amazing day, whales in the cove, and we were eating meat, and they, I don't know why, they cut the meat with scissors, so we had some scissors cutting meat and putting them into the grill. And I was there, no, come on, I'm here. I'm sharing these experiences with people from all around the world in the same island. It's like mind blowing. And well, of course, there's the other side of being isolated when you are like really far away from your loved ones. Fortunately, the stations where I went most is you have internet connection, but I was once in one that there's no internet connection, so I
Mhm.
was blanked for 3-4 months. Um, and well, you get lonely in some aspects of your life, but I believe that if you turn that loneliness into an opportunity, you can get a lot of that. I mean, it's really interesting to talk with you, with yourself, and to be there with people that you have recently known.
Mhm.
And maybe you find yourself speaking of really important things of your life with someone you have met 10 days ago. It's low. It's like Antarctica is so intense in that kind of relationships, and and of course this time for to reflect, how to think of how society lives, how we are, uh, how we live in our cities, in our daily life. You can imagine that there in Antarctica or the stations, there's no money, there's no currency. You don't use your wallet for 3-4 months. So you want some cookies, you go to the building where the cookies are stored, and you ask for them. So or people, I do not smoke, but people who smoke cigarettes are willing, and they run out of, and you have some. I always take some cigarettes, although I do not smoke, to exchange something. So I mean, you ran out of cigarettes. Yeah, here I have one. Give me those chocolates you brought, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like going back into, no, it's like a surrealistic situation, you know. It's
Yeah.
like, well, for me that's amazing, and all this personal evolution I reached going there is kind of one of the most important discoveries, because some people tell me, well, you have performed your PhD. I finished my PhD in the pandemic. Actually, it helped me a lot to get to sit and write in the computer. But when I realized, well, yeah, I reached a lot of insights into this Antarctic fish reproductive biology, but also it was I always say like a PhD in life. I mean, this scientific purpose put me into several situations and experiences that
Mhm.
maybe I didn't express them on the scientific publications I published, but I have it inside me.
Yeah.
I gain a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge from speaking with people, from speaking with me, and well, that's where what I mean. That's why where nature works, where nature is the most important information that I can receive when I kind of isolated from current societies, and that's kind of, well, I know if you have seen this Into the Wild, this movie where the guy that gets into the wild in Alaska in Fairbanks, where this the magic bus is. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I know there's a book on it and a movie.
Mm,
And I'm generally aware of the story. Yeah, without
okay.
having
Well,
learned about it.
Yeah. Well, I read this book there in Antarctica, so it was like, wow, everything.
That's surreal. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
You had mentioned you sent me a summary in or you like a short bio through email. You mentioned Herman Hesse. Is that the author?
Of course. Yes,
What
that's the author.
Yeah, tell me how his writing has influenced you.
Well, you can imagine in what was and when I was speaking about this isolation, or like this time to speak with myself, is one of these bases of kind of meditation in a way. Well, Herman Hesse books are always around these ideas of speaking with one, or of like having time to be in the present. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you have read Demian from Hesse. I one of my favorites is Demian and Siddhartha. Well, so in one of these,
one second.
You have it there.
All right, so I have two Herman Hesse books.
Yeah.
I read Siddhartha last summer.
Amazing.
Fantastic book.
Yeah.
I have Journey to the East, but I have not read it yet.
No, me neither. I have read this Siddhartha, another one that's called Demian.
Yeah. Okay.
And well, in a way, I just took a brief sentence of this Demian, which I recommend you to get into it. And it says, the bird fights its way out of the egg. The egg is the world. Who would be born must first destroy a world. The bird flies to God. The God names is Abraxas. It doesn't matter the God names and this last part, but in a way, this sentence shows what we are doing in our life. We're trying always to grow, to break these eggs that are surrounding us, and in this breaking the egg, we discover ourselves. We are much more aware of who we are, and this bit, this common phrase that leaving your comfort zone gives you much more insights that if you are always performing the same life, or you are always doing what you were taught to do. I mean, we need to try and to understand who we are, and one of a way is putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations where we need to realize how we react in them. And well, yes, I mean, Herman Hesse was a friend of mine in these journeys. Also, as you have that masterpiece, I would say, Siddhartha, when he's speaking to the river, where he realizes that the water flow is kind of a projection or an analogy of life, in which the same piece of the same water that is in the beginning is in the end and in the middle, and he tries understanding that the only thing that matters is the present. And well, I have those type of conversations with me while watching the icebergs cracking and the glaciers and the water inside. It's too Antarctica. It's too deep in terms of where you can reach with your mind. In so stable, so cold, and that's why I believe Siddhartha and all these Herman Hesse books have helped me to understand. In a way, I believe all this future we were talking about, we want to create by connecting, starts in what we are doing right now, in where we're focusing our energy, and trying to live in the present also release us from anxiety or these projects that only exist in our minds, the
Yeah.
future projects. We have to work for them. We have to work to reach them, to frame them, to make them happen.
Yeah, it's beautifully said.
Uh-huh.
Well, we're kind of getting close to time here. I have a number of questions, but actually, no, I'm gonna ask like 2 more questions.
No problem.
Who are 3 musical artists in your heavy rotation right now? And well, answer that one first. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm always running through this same my top artists, which but nowadays I'm listening a lot Radiohead, which is like also too Antarctic music, too deep and so like depressing in a good way. I mean, I mean sometimes depression. I mean, no, not depression itself, but being sad or being lonely has a bad connotation, and usually it's good to turn this to which understanding we can get from this type of. But well, coming back to your question, I'm also of course I love Pink Floyd, and as I told you, the Beatles. But for currently, I'm listening a lot to Daft Punk. I don't know if you know that band.
Yeah.
Daft Punk. Yeah, of course, it's worldwide known. And so you told me 2, 3. Well, the Radiohead, Daft Punk. I listen a lot of Argentinian music as well, which well is in Spanish, so it's not so worldwide distributed.
What are like a couple artists, Argentinian artists that you listen to?
Well, there here in Córdoba we have something too special. It's called cuarteto. It's like a Colombian cumbia, like salsa, something like that. And of course the original gaucho music from Argentina is played by a guitar and a guitar and like drums by made with leather from cow leather. So it's like a boom 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 boom, and there's some music sharing it. But well, no, yes, I mean Beatles, Pink Floyd, huge bands, Guns, well, Rolling Stones. I mean, I consume a lot of music. I'm not a fan of rock and roll, or I mean, I have several music bands that I get usually into.
What do you love most about the Beatles?
Well, that's and I heard that you're really, really, really fan of Beatles. So
yeah, for sure.
I love one of the things I think it's common in all their music is that they express like joy. I mean, they made me happy. Even I mean, I don't know, a satellite, let it be. You can say how you can get happy with that music. Well, but it's like the way they express the ideas, the situation around the 60s is like, and one of the things I value most of them is like they became worldwide famous in an era that there was no these connections, so they were really good. If not, the world wouldn't have happened. I mean, nowadays I can feel myself playing a guitar, and maybe I have 100 or 2,000 followers, and they can spread it all around. But these guys were like their music, their way of living it, and they create this magnificent band.
It's crazy. This book I have over here. I think this is my favorite Beatles book. It's called Revolution in the Head. And
Okay.
it's really about the correlation between the Beatles and their career, the arc of their career, and the 1960s decade, in particular in America, and just how they mirror each other. And there's like such a huge correlation.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Music is the expression of cultures. I mean, is how most cultures and sometimes the most beaten cultures got to express themselves.
Yeah.
You can see blues here as well, all the Afro-American music we have around. It came from slaves, and so music is a way of communicating and a way of transcendence.
Yeah.
You can say.
Yeah. It's awesome. So the last question I have for you is, what are you curious about recently?
Well, I have recently finished my scientific diving course, so I'm a bit anxious and excited to go down into Antarctic waters and to dive there because I want to see the fishes I study in their natural environment. I
Yeah.
always take them with the net, and I have seen pictures, of course, of other people who have took these pictures. But in a way, I want to be there. I want to
Yeah.
feel how it's being a fish down there and freezing myself and understanding from that. But yes, I believe this is one of the most exciting things I have in this coming year. I will try to do it my best and well dive there. I mean, we use dry suits. Don't see. I can see your face.
I got questions so I'm about to ask. Have
This
you jumped
guy's.
in Antarctic waters?
Yes, I
Okay.
did. It
But
was
you were
kind
in a
of.
suit, obviously, or yeah.
No. It was like kind of a part of baptism in a
Yeah,
way
exactly.
from
Yeah.
this. As so we went into there. It's like really freezing. You can stand almost 10 seconds, 12 seconds, and you start feeling itchy your skin and it like needles being between your skin, and then you have to go out running and get a hot shower there.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure once you jump in, almost instantly, your body is just in shock.
Yeah, of course. Yes,
Wow.
yes. That's why we are not used to that environment. And that was, I forgot to tell you, one of the things that Antarctica also touched me. It's and also told me, yeah, because we speak each other. It's like this. We humans are not meant to be there in our evolution, and we have our abstraction and our ideas to create these stations to reach there and to live there and to have permanent people there living through all the year. So in a way, is humanity expressing, several NASA crew have tested their crew there because it's like the most similar place to outside the world of being an extraterrestrial environment. And well, we are reaching. I mean, people, NASA is planning to get to Mars.
Yeah.
We are, well, it's kind of, I would really like to go there. So if you can have me a ticket to the moon, I will appreciate.
I'm working on it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again, Manuel, for coming on. This has been such a pleasure, and thanks for sharing your life and story and perspective with us.
Oh, thank you very much, Rich. I think we have conversated and we have chatted a lot with I felt really comfortable sharing. There are things we can still continue talking about. I knew you're a big Milwaukee fan, or no? Milwaukee
Yeah.
Bucks. Okay. So I also fan of basketball and NBA. I grew up with Michael Jordan, being Michael Jordan, and all these
I got
ideas.
Let's see the books I got over here. Okay. So these four right here. This is my art book, actually. But then right below it, we got the Giannis biography. My guy.
Your guy, yeah, come on.
We got
your Greek guy.
The Tao Te Ching. And then we got an MJ biography.
MJ.
Yeah.
Great.
Next time you come on, we'll talk basketball.
Perfect. Yeah, Argentina had some players, the Manu Ginóbili, now the Facu Campasso. I played with him, which is interesting. That
really,
yeah, when I was a child, we played against. He's my same age. I'm 30, turning into 31 next July. So, well, I'm always been a fan of basketball.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We keep in contact.